Hello guys and welcome to something you probably haven't seen in about 2 months, little race video here. Gonna be finishing out all the videos here for season 9, so got through about half of the season at first, so now we're gonna do that second half, off to the green flag here already at Angell Park Speedway. Second half's gonna be obviously this race, Angell Park, Genoa Trail, Outlands, and then we get the grand finals. Remember, this season was like combo grand finals with the end of the regular season, so that'll be interesting. With Mount Guerco, Barvo, and Mirabilis being the 3 grand finals tracks. So pretty solid. I mean, the whole schedule is solid, but a pretty solid set of tracks to round out the season here. And hopefully it should be a good one competition-wise. Going here into Angell Park Speedway, let me see who won the heats. Looks like Real Deal and Fireball were the heat winners here. Real Deal been snubbed the last few races. Let's see, second place last race at Alta Terra and second at Latvia as well in the 4th race, so hopefully trying to get on the top spot of the podium here at Angell Park, turn that around. Heat win, always looking good. Fireball as well though, with the Latvia win, potentially trying to bring his points back here. If anybody doesn't remember, Fireball had a pretty rough start off to the season, so potentially trying to bring that back a little bit here at Angell Park. Generally pretty good at the ovals. Remember, Fireball did end up being the Oval Series champion, so you'd expect, as we have a caution, you'd expect if he's going to bring it back on any type of racing, any type of track, it would be an oval. But you never know. Could get conked. Anyways, going to get the restart going from that caution. Remember, there are pit stops. We'll briefly check in on those during the race. Pit stops just like the Oval Series. So here for Angell Park, from what I'm seeing, it's a 90-lap main race. And the max interval in the pits is 25 laps. So, as per usual, we have 3 pits that you have to take. Same stuff as always. You can take more depending on the circumstance, like if you want to. It doesn't, it's not necessarily guaranteed to benefit you, but we'll see how it goes. 2 wide for the lead here, 3 wide for the middle of the pack. Get shoved out a little bit. And this is pretty much classic Angell Park Speedway racing here. Same stuff that we saw in Season 8, very similar. I do think we're seeing a little bit more of the high line utilized than previously, so I do find that kind of interesting because, man, I don't really remember at this point. I don't think I adjusted it. I'm pretty sure it's the same as the last time we raced it. So I do find it kind of interesting that the high line's getting used a bit more here. Although I do think it could be that when you get stretched out from the pack on this track, the high line kind of comes into its own. But like, it's such a wide, it's such a long corner as well, that the inside line can often make passes just by going for it, essentially. As you can see there, like, the inside's definitely not as purely fast as like the middle or the outside. It's very clear when they're not side by side. But when you're side by side, the inside definitely 100% has the advantage on this track. The inside driver can pretty much control what happens. So I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of it here, because it's getting spread out just a tad, just enough for people to fall into that outside line. Whereas generally, like, things are so packed up here on Angell Park that you just can't really see the high line be utilized that much when you're in a huge pack. It's not really the best thing ever. Another caution coming out. Hopefully going to get this restarted quickly. But yeah, it's nice to end the season off with 2 solid ovals. Angell Park and Barvo. Angell Park only been raced in Season 8, but that race was pretty good and pretty interesting. The ending was crazy. Oh, will that be a caution? I'm gonna, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how that's called. That was almost kind of like 2 singles. We'll see how that's called. I wouldn't really mind if that was a caution. But yeah, only raced once before, but the one time it was raced, it was pretty good. So hopefully coming back here for a solid return, twice in a row, good race. Hopefully prove that it's a decent track. And Barvo, of course, always, it's the one track where you just never know what to expect. So, of course, you always got to look forward to that. Not sure how it's going to go this season, though. We'll have to see. Because there are going to be some more, I probably should mention this now. There will be, when we watch the Barvo race this season, some more minor changes to Barvo, as we always do, like with going back to old tracks. Always minor things you can touch here and there to make it, feel a little bit fresh, feel new, and maybe, hopefully, feel better as well. With Barvo, I cleaned up the walls. It took a little bit of investment in the pieces, but with some extra walls, was able to seemingly fix the previous issue on Barvo, which is easily the biggest issue on Barvo, like not even close, which was the fact that like sometimes when you would run the cushion, it would just randomly flip you. And that would create for some cheese. Like, it would be interesting because you had to be careful with how you ran the cushion, and the fact that there was always that potential of like messing up and crashing would make the race interesting. But I just didn't really think it was fair. So to kind of counteract that as well, on top of the fact that I cleaned up the walls to get rid of that cushion cheese, also I believe removed the grab volumes on the insides to make the inside even more strong. So that was kind of the balancing act there. It's like, okay, the cushion's going to be more strong, but the inside's also now going to be more strong. There's Real Deal going in first pit, led a lot of the early part of the race, looking good so far. But yeah, that was kind of the balancing idea. Figured that, you know, with the increased consistency of the cushion, hopefully the stronger nature of the inside would balance that out a bit. And of course the cushion, it's Barvo, like the cushion on Barvo is just insane. It's always going to be the best line. But I figured that, you know, what the race really comes down to a lot of the times isn't actually who runs the cushion the best, it's who can make those moves on the inside in the corner the best. Like, a lot of people run the cushion. I mean, clearly there's a skill gap with the cushion, but a lot of people run it at a pretty similar level. What it ends up coming down to a lot of the time is just who can make those moves at the right time, how effectively you can make them, how efficiently you can make them when you're in the pack. So I think that those two changes will make for an even better Barvo experience, because even though it's a track that's always been fun and it's always came up with good race results, another caution here, you always got to have improvements, right? Like, every time you go back, it's kind of hard to not touch an old track when you're going to return to it and try to improve it, because there's just so many improvements you can make. There's always changes you can make. I was getting into another restart here. There we go. Check the laps. I don't recall if the lap counter was fixed. I believe it was. Could be wrong. But I think we saw like 28 there or so. So still in the early stages of the race here. But I think everybody will have gotten their first pit underway. So just to give you an idea of where we're at, I guess, in the race. I guess you could say, since people are, you know, getting their first pits in, everybody should have their first pit in. We're about like a quarter to a third of a way through it. Depending on, I'm pretty sure we fixed the checkpoints for it, but I honestly don't recall at this point. I just remember that in Season 8 it wasn't working. For some reason we had checkpoint issues where, like, it would just count multiple checkpoints. I don't know what caused it. It was really weird in Season 8. Fortunately, Fireball going down there. Not sure if that's going to be a caution, though. Don't think so. Battle for the lead now is going to be, it looked like Camby and Luke for first and second. So Camby was one of those, I think that was the three, actually. Fireball, Camby, and Luke in the crazy battle. Yeah, it was. In the Season 8 race for Angell Park. That battle was insane. So we know that Camby and Luke are strong up front. We know that Fireball should be good as well, even though he crashed early. Like, again, it's early in the race, first pitch is finished. We know he'll be back up front for the end. Like, in theory, those are three drivers. Of course, they finished top three last time. You'd want to look for their performance this time, see how they do. Hey, let me take a look at the rest of it. So I guess now would be a good time to talk about something else as well. So if you haven't heard, HRL still going on, but I'm not going to be involved with it anymore. So decided to step down as leader. I just got tired of it. Didn't really think that I had the passion anymore to put in the time for it to fulfill its potential, I guess you could say. So decided to step down from that, and hopefully a lot of the core veterans are going to try to keep it going and, you know, help run the league still. So if you're still interested in racing, HRL Discord, still a thing. I believe that video is still up on my other YouTube channel. So go there to join if you still want to race, or message Opixonic or any of the like core racers, I'd suppose, like any of the veterans, if you're interested in racing. So yeah, do that if you still want to race. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, not going to be returning to the like running the league sort of thing, because I just don't have the drive for that anymore. I think it's more likely that I could come back to racing at some point, but definitely still taking that off for quite a while as well. Just because, again, just kind of raced a lot, you know, a lot of races in, a lot of hours racing, just kind of felt done with it, I suppose. So there's that. Looks like, is that a Camby pit there? I think so. Going in for kind of an early pit. Was it Camby? No, it wasn't. My bad. It was Juns. Forgot that Jones is actually in this race, the pink driver, I believe. But yeah, so I guess I could go back into that a little bit because I know I kind of made the announcement in the Discord, but didn't go into it entirely. But I think the decision basically came from the fact that if you look at the amount of hours that I have into Halo racing, just racing alone, not even counting like running the league, it's actually pretty insane how many races I've competed in and seasons and just hours put into it. Laps ran. I wish I had a stat for how many laps I ran. Like, that would be insane. I would love to see that. Ooh, Camby and Luke going in on the same lap. That actually makes it kind of interesting. But yeah, just essentially race to shat load. I've got to have, I don't know like what the exact numbers would be, obviously, for everybody, but I'm willing to bet that I've got to have like one of the highest amounts of races raced out of like anybody in Halo racing throughout, from when it started at Halo 3 to Halo 5, even though I didn't even start in Halo 3, and towards the end of Reach. Like, I'm willing to bet that just because of like the last mostly, I mean, I did quite a bit in Reach, but mostly from Halo 4 to MCC, to Halo 5, willing to bet that I gotta be up there. And, just after a while, just kind of, what was that cheese with the pit stop? Fireball, you cuck. Had to interrupt my speech there, god damn it. That was a terrible move. But yeah, as with everything, like, you just get to a point where it's like you're done with it, I guess. Or you should call it, I suppose. And I think I just recently reached that point where I was like, yeah, I've raced a shat load of these, and honestly, I could race a shat load more. I just want to move on to other things, I suppose, and invest my time elsewhere. Like, I feel like I've had my time in Halo racing, and just don't want to hold myself back in any other areas of life or any other hobbies or careers or anything else that I'm interested in from all the time that I have to put into Halo racing-wise and running the league-wise. Obviously, like, if I ever came back to just be a racer, that would be the more likely thing because of the fact that it's a lot easier to just show up and race than it is to do everything behind the scenes as well. So yeah, I think running it and racing at the same time is what burnt it out for me. It wasn't necessarily like, I also noticed that just in general my mood while racing and just general attitude towards it was always better when I was just racing and not leading it, or just leading it and not racing. So you could only do one or the other, and honestly, running all the stuff behind the scenes wasn't my favorite. I would do it because I had passion for just like the racing, but a lot of other people I'm sure have more passion for actually like the the videos, the stats, the docs type of thing. Not so much for me. That was more of like I did it because I wanted the racing to be the best that it could be, not like did the docs and all the videos and stuff because I wanted that to be the best that it could be, if that makes sense. Basically what I'm saying is my focus was on the racing more so than the other things, and both things are important, like the running the league aspect and the actual like how the races go aspect, both very important, obviously, because if you have crappy rules and crappy management, no one's going to want to race. But if you have crappy tracks, crappy races, no one's going to want to participate either. So you gotta find that balance, and I just got to the point where I didn't really care for that balance, I guess. I was more so focused on the race side of things that I always have been, and yeah, just got bored with everything else, I suppose. But yeah, overall, I'd say pretty decent, not perfect, but pretty decent run through HRL and Halo 5. Really glad that we could be one of the only like fairly consistently running leagues throughout almost all of Halo 5. Really proud of that, because Halo 5, just like MCC as well. All right, I'm gonna go into story mode here. But the death of Halo racing, like after Halo 4, is just such a sad thing, because Halo 4 was like the pinnacle of it, I would argue. Like, yeah, Halo 3 was the startup, but Halo 3 had terrible Forge, and I don't want to hear otherwise. Like, yeah, good for the time, right? But compare it to Reach or any of 343's, like the one thing that 343 does good consistently, any of 343's Forge modes, it's just not even close. Like, you're just lying to yourself if you think otherwise. It's not even close. It's just nostalgia. Like, Halo 3's or even Halo Reach's Forge compared to like what we have in Halo 4, even MCC, even though it wasn't utilized much because it was broken, or Halo 5's Forge, it's just not even close. Although you can make the arguments about the mongoose physics, and fair enough. Although I do think Halo 4's mongoose physics were pretty good, so that kind of makes up for it too. Anyways, yeah, Halo 3, like Halo Racing starts off kind of an underground thing. Halo Reach just gets a little bit bigger, and then Halo 4 was like easily the pinnacle of it for all racing leagues, I would say. Like you could pick one or two out, but the only leagues I can say that didn't really reach their height in Halo 4 was the oval leagues, because I just think that oval racing, I still think that oval racing, purely physics based, was just the best in Halo Reach. Although to be fair, it's not terrible in Halo 5. It's just in Halo Reach, like the way the ovals worked on that game, the way the mongoose physics worked, it was just really, really good. Not perfect, but it worked really well. Whereas like in Halo Reach, you could just build a track that you liked, an oval that you liked, and you didn't have to test it much. Like if you just built a good oval, it would work. Whereas in Halo 5, there were times where I felt like there were tracks, and I looked at the tracks, and I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty well-built track, but it just doesn't work. And it's not even necessarily it's not even necessarily like the forger's fault. Just the physics for Halo 5 oval racing, like you need to build the tracks around the physics very hard, like completely different than Reach. I mean, obviously in all forges you would have to do that, but I don't know. I just feel like Halo 5 in particular, you would have to pay specific attention to the physics and building the track around the physics, and it just didn't work as well. I don't know. In Reach, I feel like you could just make a track for the track, if that makes sense. Whereas in Halo 5, you're like, all right, I need to think logistics the entire time. That's the best way I can explain it, and that's why I liked Reach over Racing. So going back to the rant here, I think that Reach was the only game where, okay, like for oval series it was Reach, right? But for everything else, definitely Halo 4. But then we go into MCC, and MCC, not just for the racing league, but just in general, is like the biggest video game disappointment of all time. And it's so unfortunate because MCC, in my opinion, maybe not the best, but I really like MCC's mongoose physics. I changed my mind. I'm willing to go out there and say I think MCC has the best mongoose physics. Me personally, MCC's mongoose physics were just really good. I felt like they worked for random race game types, like the World of Outlaw type that we used. I felt like it worked the best for that. It worked really well for Supercross, very similar to Halo 4. Worked really well for GP, again, very similar to Halo 4. And ovals were even better, I felt, in MCC than Halo 4. So I just really liked the MCC goose physics. I thought they were solid. And on top of that, MCC's Forge was not that bad. Like, MCC's Forge is actually pretty good. Definitely an improvement on Halo 4, not as good as Halo 5's, but also I think that Halo 5 343 kind of took a turn into the, like, what the hell, killer? 343 kind of took a turn into the like getting really complicated and complex with the Forge and how you do it. And even then, it's not that complicated, but I'm just saying that they definitely took a route more towards like making it for people that are going to spend some time with it. You know what I mean? Like Reach, Halo 3, Halo 4, even MCC. I think MCC was the last game like this. You could just jump into Forge, have no idea what you're doing, and kind of figure something out and whip something together. It wouldn't be great, but you could have your fun with it. Whereas in Halo 5, I think that's not really the case. Like Halo 5, you got to be dedicated, if that makes sense. Just the way that it's designed. Getting towards the end of the race here, by the way. But yeah, so MCC I thought had the greatest, as it should, of the simple forges. I thought that the mongoose physics were amazing. But MCC, after the pinnacle of Halo 4, just had a big major downfall. And to be fair, MCC is not entirely to blame for this. There is another factor to blame that I think a lot of people that I talk to that talk about Halo racing that usually don't bring this up. It's probably in the back of their heads, but they don't bring it up. Is the console switch. That's actually got to be one of the bigger factors. A lot of people not switching over from the 360 to the Xbox One. The 360 at Halo 4, end of its life cycle. If you wanted a 360, you had one, right? So the community was booming. Whereas with MCC, 360 had only been out, the Xbox One had only been out for a little bit, and not everybody had switched. Even with MCC, which was just huge, a lot of people switched because of MCC. Sad face. just to switch to console, not everybody had an Xbox One still relatively new. Whereas once we got to Halo 5 at that point, like another year, and then Halo 5 Racing really heating up another like year and a half after that. Like at that point, once we got to Halo 5, a little bit of a revival with HRL, I think, because people that wanted an Xbone had an Xbone at that point. Getting really close to the end here. Whereas with MCC, not the case. Very recent. And I think that there was definitely still quite a few people in MCC that were not on the Xbone train. So that is a big factor. Again, that doesn't get brought up a lot, but I think that is a big factor. The other factor is, of course, MCC's functionality. Like, custom games were awful for like half a year or so. Maybe even longer. I don't even remember at this point, but I know it was at least like 3 or 4 months, at least. Custom games were just, and just not playable and very annoying, and you have to have people join in certain orders, and it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And that kind of killed Halo Racing on MCC, which is unfortunate because MCC now might not be too bad to come back to. Like, MCC now, it's really freaking good, Like, the custom games work for the most part. Definitely work a lot better than they did. The Forge, like I said, is nice. I think a lot more people could Forge because it's simpler. I think the physics are the best that they ever were, in my opinion. And yeah, it just sucks because MCC, I think, would be like the dream Halo Racing game, but it just got killed off from the start. It didn't even get a chance. And I think I'll get into Halo 5. I'll retain this topic in my head for the next video. We'll continue on with my thoughts on Halo 5 in a bit, but I think that was a caution there. So we're getting like towards probably a green-white checkered. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. Probably a green-white checkered here at Angell Park, of course. And let's get focused back on the race. So we got Fireball first, Luke second, I believe that's Uncle Blake third, and Real Dill fourth. And rounding out the top 5, is that Jared? Jared was in the, yeah, it is, isn't it? That's crazy. I think Jared in the top 5 there. So here we go. I believe green, white, checkered, green flag. See how this goes. Oh, and Fireball going to slide up immediately. And that's probably going to give him a pretty huge advantage for the rest of this. We'll have to see if anybody can catch up. But with white flag lap, that's going to give a pretty hard gap to gain back. Uncle Blake in the battle for second. Jared and Real Deal in the battle for fourth. Looks like Jared's going to fall out of that one. Real Deal going to try to sneak by to third. Looks like Uncle Blake should have that second place locked up. And it's close, but Uncle Blake takes it. Fireball takes the win. Luke takes third. Real Deal fourth. And Jared fifth, rounding out the top 5 here at Angell Park Speedway. So, solid race right there. A lot of cheese, but, you know, that's Halo Racing. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the little story time. Jumped from topic to topic there, got kind of interesting. And like I said, I'm going to try to remember, I'm going to try to keep this in my head going into the next race, so that we can kind of pick up with Halo 5. So, see you there.